This episode of Made in America brought to you by America's Inventor League and Home Talk USA. Home Talk is a proud member of the King's Broadcasting Network, which has been bringing you the best in home-based innovation since 1998.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us for this episode of Made in America.
Welcome, America. That's right. This is Made in America Hour right here on the Build with America radio program. Welcome all of our affiliates all across this great country of ours. And boy, I tell you, it's exciting to be an American today, I tell you. And so if you joined the show last week, we have some co-hosts of the show, the Made America show, that's going to be talking about American-made issues when it comes to products and technology, government affairs, tariffs. Well, I tell you, this is the show you want to listen to. If you want to learn the way capitalism actually works, not how you think it works, but how it actually works. And while we are the world leaders when it comes to capitalism and products and services, and I'm excited. But now I'd like to welcome to the show Mr. Zach Mottl and Mr. Jon Toomey. Guys, welcome to your show. How you doing, guys? How you doing?
I'm doing great, Michael. Great to be here with you and the listeners. We're going to have a lot of fun on this hour here, starting today and going forward.
It's all about education, information, and I know that's what you're going to try to do here. And since we have three people on the line, the only thing I ask is it is radio, it's audio, is that every time, hey, this is Zach, this is John, this is Charles, let the audience know who's actually speaking there. And but we're excited. I know you have a great, it's always about the leadoff spot in baseball. You can't dictate a baseball game till you have a good leadoff hitter. You know what I mean? And boy, I tell you what I've been reading about Charles Benoit. Hey, Benoit, that's a nice Cajun name. You know that, Benoit. You know that, right? A nice French name. You know that, right, sir? But
absolutely, yeah. But, you got it, French Canadian.
You got it. I'm a Cajun, so we can hold hands and holler kumbaya. Right. But hey, Zach, tell us a little bit what's going on. Give us an update before we get Charles on the show. I know he's excited, but we got to cover a lot of ground here. What can we expect, and what we're going to be talking about today?
That's right, Michael. Well, I'm the chairman, Zach Mottl, chairman of the Coalition for the Prosperous America. And on today's show, we're going to cover a couple of hot topics related to what's going on in trade and tariffs today. First of all, we're going to get into what is they call them the Section 232 investigations. These are the national security tariff and investigations that precede them for things like chips, pharmaceuticals, steel, and there's going to be an update to the Federal Register. So we'll get into that. We also want to cover the president's newest manufacturing policy signals that are coming out in this summer and into the fall. We've got hundreds of billions of dollars pledged from allies. Where's all that money going to go? We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about India. They are a rising star here, but are they the next China? Are they the next trade cheater? We're going to talk a little bit about that. We've got our special guest, Chuck Benoit. He's our trade counsel and scholar at the Coalition for Prosperous America. He is the foremost expert on tariffs, and he's just published a recent op-ed in the American Conservative on tariffs.
Well, I tell you, we have our job cut out for us because prior to this hour of the Made in America show, we were talking to some young inventors, some young entrepreneurs, some young manufacturers just starting down that road. And the misconception that they had was just amazing. I'm going to quote what they were saying is that even though the tariffs, I had my first order. Boy, when I hear that, it's like, what has the mainstream media done to sabotage these young inventors to say that on the show today said, I got my first order, but despite of the tariffs. And that's the problem. We have our work cut out for us, my friend. I need to tell you.
You've got to educate those young inventors about how to use the tariffs to their advantage and make sure they're making their product in America. Because if they don't, what's going to happen is they're going to get eaten alive by their Chinese and Indian competitors. They'll supply them for a minute, but next they'll copycat, they'll knock it off, and they're going to be out of business. So we do have a lot of education to do. We're going to get onto that here. We also have with us Jon Toomey. He's the president of the Coalition for Prosperous America. And John's going to give us a little bit about on the pharmaceuticals. But first, we want to, are you ready, Michael? You want to bring in Chuck and John? You want to get into some of the meat and potatoes here?
Let's do it. We only got an hour. We have to roll.
All right, Chuck, why don't you tell us a little bit about the Section 232 investigations, what they are? Just give us a total overview, what's going on, what they are, and how they're going to be used.
Right. So the Constitution says that the Congress has the tariff power, but Congress, they prefer to act more like a board of directors typically. So they've delegated a lot of different tariff powers to the president. Section 232 is the national security tariff. So it's pretty broad. It says that, if the president makes a finding that imports of a particular product or, in a particular industry are threatening national security, they can use that. You can launch an investigation. The Department of Commerce launches the investigation, and then depending on what the department finds, if they do find the national security threat, the president can use tariffs or quotas. It's very broad. The language is just imports to help shut that down. And so we had a few. We had the two big ones were steel and aluminum in the first Trump term, and that's great because President Biden he didn't terminate them. He did kind of weaken them, but he didn't terminate them. But they're now in their 7th year, so pretty good track record. And this time they've been under the radar, but we've gotten a lot more. So we got copper is live now. We have an automotive one that's really big. A lot of headlines, probably heard radio commercials about talking about tariffs, and they're talking about the Section 232 automotive tariff there. And then we've got a lot in the works as well on whole industries, timber, lumber, pharmaceuticals, semiconductors, heavy trucks and commercial aircraft, critical minerals. And then people don't appreciate often is like when you hear timber, lumber, that's everything downstream all the way to kitchen cabinets. So, chips will be everything from including your cell phones and laptops. So yeah, these are we're talking about a pretty large chunk of the economy here. These are exciting stuff.
Charles, I'm just going to hype in here just for a second, but it does help to have a majority in Congress, and we have the majority that they're not going to put these obstacles in front of the president. The problem is going to arise is, and of course, I'm seeing the future is if we happen to lose the majority, then that's where the roadblocks start. So in your opinion, you think we need to take advantage of what's happening now to get all these policies that you say that need to be done?
So, I mentioned that the President Biden, he did kind of leave a lot, but yes, I am absolutely, it's totally crazy that Congress has been so inactive. They should be codifying the agenda. We're talking about Section 232 here, but all the tariffs that are all making the headlines are the ones that vary country to country. But, in my mind, there's two that are accounting for most of the revenue, right? So the president is making a huge deal about all the revenue that's coming in. You're talking about up to $300 billion this year. For context, that's more than like the bottom 3/4 of U.S. income taxpayers only actually submit about, $270 billion, I believe. So this is a huge amount of revenue. And that is under a different law, and those are very much in jeopardy right now. We're going to find out probably in the next month about what the Federal Court of Appeals thinks about it. But the fact that Congress isn't codifying that, we could be staring down a $250 billion tariff refund later this year. So I think Congress should be wasting zero time on codifying those with legislation.
But just to clarify, those are different from the 232
That's right.
tariffs. Those are the IEEPA tariffs. Michael's right. We need Congress to act on those. But these 232, they're already in law, and the investigations are going down. We're going to talk a little bit about more about that soon. I know we've got Jon Toomey on. You want to hit pharmaceuticals real quick before we go to break, John? Tell us what's going on with those.
Zach, this is one of the most exciting developments in recent years. For the last 15 years, we have seen massive drug shortages in our country. Okay, hospitals can't get product. People are going without their medicine. President Trump rightly recognized this is a national security concern, and he laid this out in his plan when he ran for president this last time. And today, the Commerce Department has launched this investigation, and we're really excited about the findings and what this is going to mean for the future of medicine made in this country.
Let me join in. Just hold it right there. We're going to have to take a short break, but we're going to come back, John, because this is important, very important for the American people to hear what you got to say, because this has to do with our health. All right, you're listening to the Made in America show right here on the Build with America radio program. We're going to be back with our co-host, Mr. Zach Mottl, and John, and our guest, Charles. And stay tuned right here. We'll be right back. Hey, welcome back to the Made in America show right here on the King's Broadcasting Network. Don't forget, we are streaming live on the World Wide Web at hometalkusa.com. If you want to learn about the Made in America show, all our issues, all our topics, we do archive all our shows. And I'm often asked, Cajun Man, when are you actually live? I mean, we hear your show during the week, at night, 3 in the morning. Look, if it's 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock Central Time, right? Central Time on Saturday, that's when we're live. That's when I'm behind the famous golden hammer microphone. That's when I'm live. That's when you can take the calls, answer emails. But this show is archived on many radio stations all across America. So if you happen to catch us somewhere beyond them perimeters, that means it's been either rebroadcast or delayed. So there you got it. Check it out, hometalkusa.com. We have a very special guest right now. We're talking to Charles Benoit. He's CPA's own trade counsel, along with the co-host of the show, Zach Mottl, and Jon Toomey. And before the break, if you just joined us, John was explaining to us about the pharmaceutical situation, and it's becoming a national emergency. But John, we had to pay some bills. You know, in radio, we have to cut you off. The computers cut you off. So let's pick up from that conversation. President Trump really recognized that we have a problem. We have defense issues here. So what's the end result of all this, John?
Yeah, so the president basically set out and he tasked his Commerce Department to find out what our national security vulnerabilities are here with pharmaceuticals. And in a few weeks, we are going to see tariffs and a plan put in place to ensure that we have stable supply, stable domestic supply, and supporting manufacturing in both branded pharmaceutical products as well as generic pharmaceutical products. So in the pharmaceutical space, you know, you have an innovative drug company, right? Think of, you know, Merck, for example. They develop a drug, and after a term of years, then generics come into the market, and they make up the majority of scripts today. So in America, 90% of all prescriptions are generic drugs. They are also the majority of hospital products, so the products that the hospitals buy. And today, we are dangerously dependent on two nations for the majority of these generic pharmaceuticals. That is India and that is China. And President Trump and his 232 team at Commerce are doing an investigation today, and they will establish a framework by which we can see and support a domestic industry of generics and brands here in this country.
And John, this is so important. You know, I think people don't always realize why this is so important. Not only do we want to, you know, have good jobs in America, but, you know, during the pandemic, what happened? We saw certain countries, India, China, not shipping us ingredients, not shipping us face masks. So to the listeners out there, the audience out there, those of you that take medicine, maybe whether it's for your blood pressure, whether it's for your allergies, or whether it's your diabetes medicine, that stuff is not being made in America. And if there's a time of conflict, well, we could be cut off. And what else have we seen, John? Haven't we seen some quality issues? What's going on over at the FDA?
Zach, you're exactly right. There is massive quality concerns with products coming from Asia. There was a study that came out this year from Ohio State professor John Gray. It said if you take an Indian-made generic, okay, you have a 54% greater likelihood to contract a serious adverse event as opposed to taking an American or European-made generic. Now, remember, I said generics are 90% of all prescriptions in this country, and the majority of generics are coming from India. So that means our public is actually not getting better by taking these products. We need to make the medicine here. We need to know what's being put into the medicine. That is what this 232 is going to do. It's going to clamp down on these products coming into this country. We're going to ensure that we have safe, effective medicine made in the U.S., which is a great move by President Trump.
That's right, John, because, we're talking about just a few pennies a pill. And, Americans, we're not paying any less for our healthcare, are we? No, we're paying more and more, but the outcomes are worse and worse because it is true what you said. These drugs have been documented either to have something in them they're not supposed to, or they don't quite match the formula. They don't dissolve the same way. And what does that mean for the person that took it? Either it's too fast in their bloodstream or too short in their bloodstream. And this can be critical for certain medicines. You talk to doctors and they say, well, I switched into a different brand of the same generic and I had a different result, a different outcome. That's because they're not exactly the same. We need them made here. We need to know what's in them. Plus, we need all those good jobs. Why are we making good jobs? Why is our healthcare creating good jobs in India and China? So I'm really excited for what the president is doing. There's some other stuff happening out there also on these tariffs and things. I know it's coming up soon, and maybe we want to let people know about this. There's going to be some inclusion requests. Aren't there opportunities for manufacturers to get into the tariff game?
This is a beautiful development. Charles Benoit, who's on with us, knows all about inclusions. Chuck, what just happened Friday, and what can the audience expect to happen going forward with these inclusion rounds?
So Friday, they were a little late, but belatedly, the Department of Commerce made all their decisions from the May inclusion round. So in the first 2 weeks of May, domestic producers had the opportunity to say, hey, I buy steel or I buy aluminum, but my product doesn't have a tariff. So can I get some tariff protection too? Tremendous process. We are very bullish on this. We work with some great companies. So Sherrill Manufacturing, last flatware manufacturer left in America, they got cutlery, stainless steel cutlery added to the steel 232.
Knives and forks, right, Chuck? Knives and forks. Knives
and forks, yeah. Okay, flatware, cutlery, there's so many words, I don't know. But the knives, forks, spoons, you name it. And so and then also gym equipment, dumbbells and kettlebells. That's another CPA member there, Golden's Foundry. They're now that exercise equipment is now part of the Steel 232. So that was great. So we're very excited about that.
So we're Chuck, companies. Go ahead, Zach.
We're seeing jobs coming back. We're seeing people make investment decisions. One of the things that's important to keep in mind here is how the scope of these tariffs and the timing affects policy. I'm a manufacturer myself, and I'm getting inquiries left and right from companies trying to figure out how to move their supply chain back to America. They want to do the right thing. They want to employ Americans, and now they're highly motivated because it's coming out of their pocket with the tariffs. So, the sooner the administration can be clear and firm on these things, the better in terms of getting jobs back in America.
Well, guys, we're going to have to take another break here on the Made America show. This is Cajun contractor Michael King, along with our co-hosts. We have Mr. Zach Mottl and, of course, Jon Toomey. Our guest is Charles Benoit. We sure hope you stay with us. Don't forget, please check out our website at hometalkusa.com. We are streaming live on the World Wide Web. So we're going to get into some tough issues. We're getting straight to the point right here on the King's Broadcasting Network. Let's take a short break. I am the Cajun man from the Bayou Land, the originator, not the duplicator. Please don't accept no substitutions. Man, I was green before green was even cool. We'll be right back. Hey, welcome back to the Build with America Hour. This is the Made America show right here on the King's Broadcasting Network, where it's all about education and information. We want to welcome all of you. If you're just joining us, we're talking to Mr. Charles Benoit. Charles is the CPA's own trade counsel, very nationally recognized leader on trade policy. That's what we're talking about. Basically, right, Zach? Just trying to set the record straight and try to get all the inconsistencies and all the bad media exposure that's really not telling the truth. And that's what we're trying to do right now, right?
That's right. We want to cut through some of the noise out there and some of the false narrative on tariffs and on what we're doing about making these jobs come back to America. But I want to get something else out on the table here. We've been listening to Jon Toomey from the Coalition for Prosperous America and Charles Benoit. I want to get into with Charles on another thing that we're talking about with tariffs. It's called specific tariffs. Charles, can you tell us about specific tariffs and maybe get into a little bit about that op-ed you just recently published in American Conservative?
Yeah, so, specific tariffs have been around as long as tariffs have, which is to say, over 5,000 years of recorded history. But, these days we're all thinking of tariffs as like a percentage, right? And we all used to the president saying, 10%, 20%, 25, 50%, like percentages. But that's, you can go back 5,000 years. And another way to do it is by weight or by count. So, you'd say, okay, the tariff is $1 a pound. When there's a lot of controversy over why are we putting tariffs on coffee? Well, the founding fathers in the very first Tariff Act of 1789, they were looking to fund the government. And so much like with a sales tax, they put a 2.5 cents per pound tariff on coffee. That is a specific tariff. We don't care what the cost of the coffee is. We're just going to count how much coffee there is. That's it. So it's super straightforward. And you're thinking, why? Who cares? Why are you even telling me this? Well, the thing that, we all think that tariffs is a percentage. That's the fancy word is ad valorem. That's Latin. We all think that's pretty straightforward because we're used to sales taxes. We go to Best Buy and, okay, we're aware that there's a 6% sales tax and that's added. And yeah, it's straightforward. That's not complicated. Problem is in tariffs, it's not a store. There's not like just prices listed on the shelf that you're going to apply it to. So when the president says there's a 25% tariff, 25% of what? What are we applying it to? We're applying it to an overseas invoice, like a piece of paper, a PDF that is the easiest thing to forge, and we have no way really to police it. So this has led to all sorts of problems and all sorts of, tariffs don't work. It's like, well, yeah, because basically the importer gets to pick their own tax rate. But with specifics, you don't have that problem. The specific tariff, Customs and Border Protection, they're our border police, they're at the port. All they have to do is weigh or count what's in front of them. We're not taking the word of the overseas manufacturer or flashing some paper. We don't care what your invoice says. We're just going to count what's in front of us. 5,000 years old, works really well. Doesn't, some things it's less well suited for. But generally speaking, we're hoping we're going to see a big embrace. That's what I wrote about, on steel and aluminum, two industries that could really benefit from this transition. So we're hoping we're going to see that sooner than later.
I can't wait to see this myself, Chuck, because, I've listened to our members, folks who employ thousands of people, tens of thousands of people, in fact, in America, and they are struggling against these imported products coming through Mexico, usually from China through Mexico or through some other country. And they say, you know what? He put a 30% tariff on my product. Maybe it's pipes and tubes. There's a tariff, but it's coming in even faster than before. What's going on here? When you look at it, they're literally committing fraud. They're making up the price on the invoice. And look, I'm a manufacturer. There's so many other ways to pay them. Maybe you pay them a setup charge, and then that's not on the invoice, or a one-time fee, an order fee. They can play games all day long, but when you're counting it or weighing it, if there's 100 tubes or 10 cars, it's $1 or whatever, $1,000 a car, $10,000 a car. It's very, very easy. We get rid of the cheating, and that's going to help us bring more jobs back into America big time. When do you think that's coming out? Do we know? Is that for sure, Chuck, or is that still on the table?
Nothing's for sure until the president signed it. But on Friday, the president did allude to, more steel tariffs coming in like the next week to 2 weeks. So, feeling very bullish on that. And, I'm expecting before the end of the month.
But Charles, I need to tell you, that's the difference in having a businessman compared to a politician. running the program. You understand? And that's what he understands. He understands, building materials. He understands that when the materials come on my job site, I don't care what's on that invoice. I'm going to count that plies of wood and count that steel. So he has that mentality, and that's what people need to understand.
Yeah, that's exactly it. There's way too many eggheads in DC, academics, ivory tower types, and we're still fighting that, like, because that is everyone beneath him. I mean, I'm telling you, like, these economist types, like they've got in their mind, it's all very
yes,
but it just all falls apart. I wish everyone who's involved in tariff policy in DC at Department of Commerce headquarters and whatnot, they all need to spend some time in the ports with Customs and Border Protection, who are as the containers come off the ship, actually think about tariff collection in the real world.
Some of your listeners, Michael, they still might not even understand tariffs in the first place, right? But the truth is that there is not a single country in the history of the world that went from poor to rich, that went from, basic to develop without using tariffs. They've been used in America. That was how America was built. That's how Japan was rebuilt after the war. Germany also. Same for South Korea. Same for China. Same for Taiwan. Every one of these countries uses tariffs and non-tariff barriers to manipulate, and it's working. It wins. It builds countries. So this is not a debate anymore, even though some economists would like to confuse us with some fake numbers and bogus models. The reality is tariffs work. They create jobs and they create investment in that economy.
Well, at one time, tariffs was the only source of income for this young United States before the income tax. That's what we got real good at that back in the 1920s and the 1910s. That money was flowing in, and America wasn't broke. You know what I mean? That money was coming in, but it's always worked. You have a president now that knows how to work it, and it's just a misconception of the tariffs themselves that scares people because they simply don't understand it. But I tell you guys, we're gonna pick up that model, that threshold, that mantle, whatever you want to call it, and we're going to educate, because I'm just tired of the mainstream media really misrepresenting the whole purpose of tariffs in the first place. Is that to make look, we talked about this last week. What last month or month before last? $28 billion one-day surplus. That's never happened in the history in 40 years where America had actually a surplus, not a deficit. Come on, report the truth. That's all I ask.
We're going to have so much money, we don't know what to do with it, Michael, from tariffs. So it's going to be an amazing thing for America, and we're going to have jobs. Now, we've only got a few more minutes left, I know, before our next break here, but I want to get into a little bit, because we just started talking about it, managed trade, and that's really what we're moving to here. Jon, I know you've been really talking about this when you're out in the trenches there fighting for American workers. We're talking about managed trade. Tell the listeners a little bit about what that means and where we're going with that.
Yeah, so we're getting away from this rules-based order, rules-based trade. Is that right, Chuck? Is that how you describe it?
You got it. Yep.
The previous governing order of this, and we're really just managing our own trade flows, right? We're setting the rules of the road for once, right? And that really is how this administration is looking at it. No longer are we going to, set these trade deals and have them negotiate in Geneva, right, Chuck?
Exactly. That's exactly it. We're getting back to work negotiating outcomes as opposed to these fake rules.
Yep.
And honestly, it's about taking control of our destiny. Isn't that right? We have let other countries determine the destiny of America, what we're going to make, what jobs we're going to have, because we signed up for these trade deals. We literally made the decision to give them some of our wealth, give them some of our job, give them some of our industry. And as we've done that over the last 30, 40 years, we've lost control entirely. So we are taking back control of our own destiny. That's what we're doing with managed trade. We're going to manage our destiny in future.
All right. We got to step away from our microphones just for a second. We got to pay some bills. You're listening to the Made in America show right here on the Build with America Radio Network. We're going to take a short break. We got one more segment to go. Please don't go anywhere, because the gumbo is hot and it's ready to serve. We'll be right back. Yay! welcome back. This is the Made in America show right here on the Build with America Radio Network. If you just join us, we only have one more segment. We're just covering a lot of issues that have to do with trade, tariffs. I mean, this is the show that's going to educate you, guide you, advise you when it comes to our policies. We're going to sort through all this mess and all the hoopla, all the smoke screens. We're going to talk to the experts, the people that make policy, the people that's going to guide not only our lives today, but our lives in the future. Zach, I tell you, we got a roll here. You got a lot more to cover, a lot of excitement. John, a lot of excitement. We got Charles sitting in the blue room, the green room, whatever room you want to call it. But Zach, so what do you want to discuss? What do you want to move on to?
Well, in the last segment, we talked a little bit about why tariffs work and the national security tariffs, the IEEPA tariffs, the specific tariffs. Now I want to get into another country that we see on the radar screen, India. Is India going to be our next great trading partner? Or are they going to be the next big cheater? The same thing that we see coming out of China. John, what do you see coming on the radar screen with India? Give us a little warm up, please.
Listen, I think this administration is rightly recognizing that India is nothing but adopting the Chinese playbook here. They cheat, they subsidize, they dump. They've been doing it in sectors for years, whether it's quartz countertop surfaces, whether it's steel, whether it's pharmaceuticals. India has copied Beijing's playbook. President Trump understands that better than anyone. Ambassador Greer, Secretary Lutnick, these guys are not going to let China off the hook. A lot of people say, hey, look, India is our friend, right? They're our geopolitical ally versus China. That may be so, but cheating is cheating, right? Whether or not they're dumping, engineered stone into our market with their government subsidies, or if they're crushing our steel industry. This administration rightly recognizes that India is playing the same playbook that China has played for years, and they use it with subsidies, massive state subsidies from the government of India. They're not going to tolerate it. And that's why you see today the Indians, they have no deal. The tariffs keep going up, and we're not going to allow their product to come in. Some of their product, as we touched on earlier, is just poor quality too. They're sending in medicines. This is not working. We're not going to take it anymore.
Well, John, let me jump in here right quick, Zach. I need to tell you, about a year ago, every time you heard me on this show saying, I wish that 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, that somebody would turn the lights on over there, because the lights has been off. And why I say that is because now the lights are on over there. And I tell you, and one of the things I have a problem with right now, and I know it's being addressed right now, is the situation where India fueling Russia's war machine, and that has to stop now. So 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, I'm just a little Cajun man from the Bayou land down here, but I have a microphone, and I need to tell you, until they stop supporting that war effort to kill us here, I think we need to, like you said, we need to play hardball beyond anything that we can imagine, because India needs the United States. They need the technology. We need their technology. And Zach, what do you think?
Maybe we're the biggest marketplace in the world, whether it's India, China, or any other country. They want to sell to the United States. And President Trump understands that leverage. He's been the first president in my lifetime, honestly, to understand that relationship and that leverage and to use it for America's advantage. And so, India, let's just say this, they don't have zero tariffs. They don't allow our product to come into their country, do they? No, they build walls and barriers because they want to have the industry there. They sell to themselves first. They grow the companies to scale, and then they unleash it on the world. They unleash it on us. They subsidize it, and they dump. And you're right. They're selling us products, taking our dollars and running them through the system. They're buying oil from Russia. That's supporting Russia's war with Ukraine. China's doing the same thing. So we need to, Trump gets it. He's using the leverage, our entire government on these issues. As far as what we see, the products that are made in India that we could make here, it's particularly pharmaceuticals, but there's other stuff too. It's automotive, it's telecom. There's a lot of products in there. Chuck, you want to jump in here and give us a little bit of your background on the India trade issue?
Yeah, so that's India's they've been a free rider forever. People don't realize this, but they got in on the ground floor back in 1947. This larger thing called the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, and in all those multilateral rounds through the 20th century, they were smart. They just sat on the side of the wall, made zero concessions, but because of the way that system works, they just got a free ride forever. And more recently too, they've been pretty good at, because everyone's got like a strategic concern, that they managed to free ride on that. So that at the WTO, they put like their average bound tariff rate at the WTO is like over 50%. Ours is 3.4. It's insane.
So they've got 50% on everybody else, and we've got 3% on them.
Yeah, exactly. And it's I love watching. I mean, actually, I lived in India for a year, so I kind of know that country, and I paid a lot of attention to the automotive industry. When we want a car factory, we subsidize the hell out of it. We're like, you don't pay for anything for 30 years, Don't worry, the taxpayers they'll pay for your factory. That's the American approach.
All right, guys, we got to stop right there. We got to put brakes on this train. I don't know if I'll be able to hold it back here, but we're going to have to wait till next week. We're going to have another topic, another conversation. Jon, Zach, hey, please let us know if you like the new format, if you like the show. Just go ahead and send me a text or email, michaelking1350@yahoo.com. Let us know what you think. But we're excited. This is the Made in America show on the Build with America network. Zach Mottl, Jon, great job. Our guests, man, I tell you, the knowledge that you have. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Till next week. We're going to be right back with another guest, another topic, right here on the King's Broadcasting Network. Y'all come back next week, you hear?